Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
Cruising your way on this episode of Off 90. We meet two New York artists visiting Lanesboro. We visit a microbrewer in Rochester. We tour a Sodapop bottling plant from Spring Grove. And we travel to Viola to take in one of the oldest town festivals in Minnesota. It's all just ahead, Off 90. Hi, I'm Barbara Keith. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Off 90. Nora is the name of a character from Henrik Ibsen's play A Doll's House. Nora is also the name of a documentary musical theater piece. It was the idea of two New York City artists who were in residency in Lanesboro. The project was inspired by Ibsen's A Doll's House and the true stories of mothers and wives in southeastern Minnesota.
And it is 1879. A few hours ago, I went to catch a new show by my great friend, Henrik. It is a play entitled A Doll's House.
Documentary theater could be a variety of things, but the kind that we're working on is a performance piece that is created by people who are also the storytellers and content creators.
You may have differing opinions on my story. Now, was this a great example of trust and creative collaboration, or sheer stupidity?
Documentary theater is different because it really capitalizes on a non-actor, right, telling their story and getting on stage and sharing with a group of people.
I never thought about myself being a storyteller. But after this workshop, where we were asked to write a little story, I had the courage to try one, and I wanted it to fit into that period of time between 1990.
I am Jacinta Clusellas, and I'm a composer and guitarist.
I'm Tatiana Pandiani, and I'm a theater director. We're both originally from Buenos Aires, Argentina. We live in New York right now. And we came to Lanesboro because we are the artists in residence at Lanesboro Arts, and we've been here for a couple of weeks.
When Tatiana found about this residency opportunity, and we started talking about it because we were already collaborating on other projects. We both knew that our residency here should have some aspect that involved the community, that it's not just a residency that an artist comes to develop their own work in the room, that it has to be connected to the community. So we found out that there's a lot of Norwegian immigrants or descendants from immigrants. And then we started thinking a little bit about how we could connect what we're doing with what's happening here. And then the idea of A Doll's House came up, and how, if the main thing, if it's still relevant or not.
I was remembering recently that the first time I ever read Doll's House, it was actually in Spanish, because I read it in high school. And so I read it in translation. That was the first time I read Doll's House, and then over the years I worked on it in different academic productions. And it felt like Nora was a strong anchor for this project.
Nora, she's a housewife. She's a mother of 3 children, and she finds herself living a life that she didn't choose. At least that's my interpretation throughout the play. And we were very interested in bringing this play, A Doll's House, as a starting point for a project, and asking the main question if Nora is still relevant nowadays. And yeah, it's been very interesting to see everybody's response to it.
I can't go back there anymore. You know my keys won't fit the door. You know my thoughts.
I definitely feel there's a lot of relevance in the way Nora lived her life, with the way many women choose to live their lives today, with the good and the bad, however you want to see that.
You know my thoughts don't fit the man, they never can, they never can.
So tonight is the capstone performance of Nora. So it's a presentation of some of the work we've been doing with the collaborators, the local collaborators that were part of it. And so it's a combination of text from the play, poetry written by the participants, stories told by the participants through photography and memories that they brought in and we shaped into stories, some music, and then some reviews, some original reviews of A Doll's House from 1879. So it's an eclectic presentation of different kinds of materials, a collage of sorts, kind of like a performance collage, all connecting via Nora, right, as a central figure. Our objective was to serve as guides and as editors, but the piece is not about us or our experience. It's about them and their experience. So they were really, hard at work creating content, whereas we were on the outside guiding and shaping their work.
We found people to be very engaged, very active, very motivated, and yeah, it's inspiring. It's very inspiring to see people who have such a beautiful lifestyle.
The interest of craft brewing has been growing steadily in the past decade. Beer drinkers are thirsty for a greater variety of flavors. To satiate their quest, microbreweries are popping up all over the place. We visited a microbrewery in Rochester to learn about the business of brewing.
We haven't had a brewery in Rochester since Prohibition. Kinney Creek Brewery just really started as a love for the beer. Home brewing. I originally started out with wine, and that kind of got to a point where I had 400 bottles in the cellar, and I couldn't drink it fast enough to keep brewing. And if I could make wine, why can't I make beer? So I started trying that out. When I first started, the first couple of batches that I did, when I started 15 years ago, you couldn't go into the local liquor store and say, I want an IPA or I want oatmeal stout. So when I got into homebrewing, you didn't really have those things to compare to. And you had to really go trial and error until you got the beers, what you liked, or even understand the beers you're making. And through the course of that 3 to 4 years after that was purely just understanding what beer other than something yellow was made of. Art or science? Beer is both. You have to have the artistic side of your thought process to try new things and to take it to the next level, but you have to have the science to understand what you're doing. And without one or the other, it just doesn't work, especially in the craft beer market today. I think from the artistic side, I really enjoy new hops. I really enjoy barrel aged. And by doing those two things really excites me and bringing something that somebody hasn't had in Rochester. Milling the grain typically will take anywhere from a half hour to an hour depending on the style of beer and how much grain is in it. And as we get that into a milled product, we put that into our mash tun, which we add water. Let that sit for an hour, stripping all those sugars, get in the boil kettle, and that's where we add the hops. And once we get in the boil kettle, that could take anywhere from 2 hours to 3, depending on the boil length. As that gets finished, then we bring it down into the fermenter, and the fermenter will actually, where we add the yeast will sit and take those sugars, make it into alcohol within the next, anywhere from 7 to 10 days. People started looking for something that's fresh, local, unique, and something that they could relate to. Because what we've had for beer in years past is not anywhere near where it's been the last 10, 15 years.
Your hours you were open, it's just great, we'll be there.
It's been growing, and they're looking for those different flavor profiles, something that is more complex. And by doing that, you're, number one, you're getting something local, typically. Number two, you're adapting to what you're looking for. If it's something dark, something sweet, something that's got maybe a little more spice to it.
Sure, yeah.
Prior to the taproom law, the brewery, from a straight up standpoint, couldn't sell direct to customer a glass of beer. There was a lot of breweries that worked really hard at changing the laws in Minnesota so that we could sell direct to customer, have a tap room so people could enjoy more than just a sample. In Minnesota, even as breweries go, we've got 3 dozen plus. We haven't even touched it yet, and that's one of the things that is exciting to me, because even within the next year, we hopefully will have a half a dozen here in Rochester. Right now, one of our elements that we try to bring to the table is a variety, and we have 14 different tap lines. One of them is a root beer, the rest of them are beer lines, and they can be anything from standard alcohol all the way up to 14% alcohol. Light, dark, hoppy, sweet. So that allows us to bring a different part of the brewery to any individual that walks in the door. If they like dark chocolate coffee, we've got stouts on tap. If they like the more sweet, the reds, we've got that also. The seasonal side of things is really complicated because you get so many different varieties of beer, so little time, and your typical seasonal is only 2 to 3 months. Right now we're bottling in bomber-sized bottles, 750s or 22-ounce bottles. On the nano size that we do it all by hand. So it's one bottle at a time, and very labor intensive. We've doubled capacity 4 times in 2 years.
Wow.
So it's just a matter of trying to stay ahead of that growth.
And just if you have a good one, I mean, that's...
Right. And the day that we opened, we ran out of beer. And that was the worst day of my life. We like beer. We like that relationship that we have with the community.
So what are you brewing today? It smells so good.
I'm not actually sure. I think he was working on a new recipe.
Speaking of the customer is what really has made us what we are today. We've been 2.5 years in the making since we opened the doors, because our customers have comment cards on every table. If they like it, they don't like it, tell us why.
White House honey.
Okay, so like a honey wheat beer?
Yeah. I think from a customer standpoint, the more relationship that you have with them on a beer level is really the key, because people are looking for something different. They can go anywhere and just have a beer, but they love the idea that they could come to the tap room, see the people or where it's made, and enjoy something as fresh as a few weeks versus a few months. We're always growing and we're always learning, and that's the fun part of it.
The Spring Grove Sodapop Factory is one of those great little hometown gems that is gaining a national following. It got its start in 1895 with grape, strawberry, and root beer flavors. Using pure cane sugar, today's flavors are carrying on the old-fashioned tradition. Owner Bob Hansen gave us a tour of the bottling plant, where we learned what makes the Sodapop a growing favorite.
The company was started back in 1895 by a gentleman by the name of G.G. Risty. And in that time period, all the small towns in the area had their pharmacist, they had a little soda jerk, they had a little ice cream parlor, and typically they were all rolled into one. And G.G. ran it for a few years, and then his brother-in-law decided to help him out with some cash, and they bought some bottling equipment. Once they bought the bottling equipment, he continued to run it for about another 4 or 5 years, and then they sold it, and it was sold about 2 or 3 different times until the Arnold Morgan family bought it. And when the Morgan family bought it, they had bought it in the early 50s, and they continued to run it. And we actually had bought it from one of Arnold's sons and his grandson. My name is Bob Hansen. I'm the owner of Spring Grove Sodapop. When we bought the Sodapop plant, my wife and I didn't realize how much people focused Spring Grove with the Sodapop. It's always been a little Norwegian community to us, and which was great. It's got all its little festivals and quirks and stuff like that. But when we bought the Sodapop, it was just like a light turned on for both of us that how much this business means to this community. And we've just tried to do our best to keep it going vibrant and continue to make it grow. Well, when Mr. Risty started, from what I've been told, the flavors that he started with, there were 3. One of them was strawberry, another was root beer, and the other one was grape. We offer 9 flavors. Strawberry, black cherry, cream soda, creamy orange, grape, root beer, lemon sour, orange, and blueberry. The most unusual flavor that we've had is probably the blueberry. We started to bottle that for Lanesboro Rhubarb Festival, and we ended up putting our own label on it. I think my favorite flavor is always the same. It never really varies, is the cream soda. I absolutely love the cream soda. It's got a very unique flavor. Our cream soda is a real big seller. It's the old-fashioned cream soda. A lot of the cream sodas you get today are, I call them blonde because they're clear or they're a yellowish tint. Ours is actually dark, is a dark cream soda. When we're bottling, the first thing that we'll do is we'll have the bottles are all pre-labeled. So we'll be putting the bottles onto the line, and then they'll go through a rinse cycle. And once they come through the rinse cycle, they'll go into the filler room. And once in the filler room, they're going to go right to the filler. But the process actually starts upstairs because, like I said prior, we have mixed our flavors upstairs in our syrup room, and we're sending those down. It's a gravity flow system. So the flavor is coming down, it'll go into our carbo mix. And what happens there is we're going to blend the soda, the syrup, and the water together. It's going to go into our carbo cooler, and there we're going to chill it down to about 33 degrees, 34, 33 degrees, and once it's cooled, it's going to get CO2 pushed into it. The CO2 adheres to the soda a lot better if it's cold than if it's warm. So now your soda, when it comes out of there, is ready to drink. It's got the CO2 pushed into it, it's nice and cold, it's about 34 degrees, and we'll push that over into our filler, and then we'll fill. We'll fill our bottles, and they'll come out of the filler full, and then they'll go through a capper, go through a little bit of a rinse cycle, and then they'll come back around to a little round table, accumulation table, and we'll typically have 1 to 2 people there boxing them up and sending them on their merry way. Well, I think that people actually really are looking for the old-time flavor, something that they just can't get everywhere. You know, there's a Coke machine and a Pepsi machine in every corner, or two, and people really are going back to the nostalgia of it. They like it in the glass bottle. They like it that it's made with pure cane sugar, and they just want to get that old-time flavor again. I would say that our biggest drinkers of it are probably mid-30s and up, because they actually want a quality soda. I think as a small business, a typical small business in the United States, you're trying to make ends meet. You're trying to do the best you can to grow your business, to make it profitable, and maybe sell it to somebody for huge money. Little different story here. When we bought it, absolutely, we had the same dreams everyone else does when they buy a small business. But that changed rather quickly, because we found out how much this town, actually not just the town, the whole couple of counties really treasure this little business, and they support it immensely. You know, it just makes you feel good. We're just enjoying what we do, and it's keeping this little business alive, strong and alive, and that means a lot to us. So that the next person that does get it is going to have a strong business to jump into and continue the heritage of the Spring Grove Soda Pop.
The Gopher Count is an annual community festival held in Viola, Minnesota. Since 1874, the event has been on the third Thursday in June. The event is actually 1 year older than the Kentucky Derby. Named after the practice of collecting bounty on gophers, the festival has grown over the past century to include many other family-friendly activities. We took a trip down to Viola to see the Gopher Count.
The name for the celebration isn't celebrating counting the gophers or killing the gophers. It's just the name of the event. It started in 1874. We're very strong on tradition around here. Many people, they know if they come to Gopher Count each year, that's one place where they get to see friends that they never see, friends and relatives. In the last few years now, some of the more popular events are in the morning. We have what we call a corn dig, and kids get to jump into the corn and look for coins, and they get to keep whatever they find.
4, 3, 2.
When it comes to Gopher Count, age has no meaning to it, because you can join in the pie eating contest or the nail driving contest, whether you're 6 years old or 66 years old. Everybody is a part of it. 1974 was our 100th celebration of the Viola Gopher Count. At that time, we started doing 2 days, a Wednesday evening and all day Thursday. Before that, it was strictly Thursday. Yep. This is my 55th consecutive Gopher Count. My first one, I was only a week or so old, and I've been to every one since then. To people that are from this area, to miss Gopher Count is almost a sinful thing to happen. And the nice thing to see now as I'm older is the generations that are coming up behind me. And at the time when I was a child, and this was as big as Christmas for us here in Viola. In Viola, it's Christmas and it's Gopher Count are your two big holidays. When is something happening that time of year? It's either before Gopher Count or after Gopher Count. The other thing is just a sense of tradition, of knowing that you're a part of something that's special. We take great pride in knowing that we're the second oldest celebration in the country. And the nice aspect is you get to see children, and now I, at my point in life, am seeing grandchildren of my contemporaries that they bring here to experience the feeling of Gopher Count. It's a feeling that's hard to describe in words. The things that some people think are quirky about the celebration are things that we're most prideful of. It's a unique name. When you talk about the Gopher Count, everyone knows what it is.
That's all for this episode. If you enjoy programs like Off 90, please show your support by becoming a member of KSMQ Public Television. Keep local programming vibrant in southern Minnesota. Give us a call at 507-481-2095 or 1-800-658-2539 or sign up online at ksmq.org. Thanks for watching. Join us next time, Off 90.
Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.